going on, guys? Welcome to the LowKick MMA Weekly Roundup. 1 or 2 this week. We have another one coming midweek, but this one will just be recapping all the fights from the past weekend. Jordan, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not bad at all. I think this would have been one of the best UFC cards we've had this year by far. One of the most action-filled UFC cards in general, this being UFC 261. What did you think of the spectacle? Fans back. It couldn't have gone better for the UFC, right?
Yeah, it was epic. I loved having the fans. I've missed the fans since day one. We're having a big thing with football over here right now. The fans are rebelling against the owners, and fans are very important. Without fans, the sport's nothing. And so I've really missed them. It's great to have them back, and obviously the fighters really enjoyed having them back because first fight to last fight, everyone brought it. The fans were hyped. It was great. It was great to see. Great to have them back, and the card overall was one of the best I've ever seen. Obviously it's recency bias, and it's hard with all this going on to try and remember what other good cards you can have, but this is definitely up there, one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to think about it. I was getting kind of used to having no fans, and I thought that was the optimal way to have these fights. But just having the fans there just adds to the energy. The fighters seem to fight more, I would say better. Like you know what I mean by better? They seem less sticking to their way to, I don't know. They just seemed like they were willing to go out there and bang, so that was good. But anyway, we'll hop right in the main event. Kamaru Usman shocks the world, shocks me, and gets it done against Masvidal by a knockout. I don't think anyone expected that.
No, it's just the knockout part that is the surprising bit. Obviously, everyone expected the Usman to win, to expect them to look dominant, but not this type of dominance. It was, if you're an Usman fan, I'd say after round 1, you're a bit worried. The fact that he's so happy to be on the feet with Masvidal, and at times he did look a bit reckless. His striking it doesn't look, he's not Masvidal, he's not Conor McGregor in there. He doesn't look so clean with his striking, but it was effective. And in round 2, he absolutely nailed him, and we got that picture out of it where all the sweat pops off Masvidal's head. It was iconic, and it's going to be iconic. It was absolutely sensational from Kamaru Usman, who just continues, his star continues to rise, and Masvidal's just kind of got to go away and lick his wounds because he was talking about no punching power coming from the Nigerian Nightmare. So yeah, he's got to go and eat his medicine, but he's been dishing out for a while now, so it's time for him to be the nail.
At the end of that first round, I thought Usman looked fatigued, and I was getting kind of worried for him because obviously at the end, he was really baiting that takedown to throw the big overhand left and overhand right, trying to set that up, and it wasn't working for him. He was doing some good work on the feet, but it didn't look like he was going to do anything game-changing. Then obviously he comes out there, he uses his lead left hook to lower the hand of Masvidal and just throws the 2 straight down and puts him out. Awesome knockout. Like the way that Masvidal fell, the way he finished it up with the strikes after, the super necessary strikes, it was just really impressive. And I think all the praise he's getting now is well-deserved, especially being a fighter like Usman that a lot of people aren't a big fan of, myself included. Before this fight and before the Burns fight, he really wasn't the most exciting fighter to watch. I guess the Covington fight was good, but this really sold me on Usman as being one of the greats. What do you think?
Yeah, he's brilliant, and I think the problem with Masvidal is he didn't believe Usman's capable of knocking him out. So when he's in there, Usman's hitting him in the face, and he's kind of thinking, I think he's in his head thinking, I'll let him get some success off, and then he'll get confidence in his hands, and then I'll nail him. This is the way to go. But you can't do that with championship level caliber fighters. Every fight Usman is getting better. He looks great. I wouldn't advise him to stand up too often because obviously he still does look like a bit of a novice in there, but he obviously not taking anything away from him because he absolutely nailed Masvidal to the floor. So yeah, Usman just continues to do these things. I know some people are already putting him alongside GSP, which obviously I wouldn't do, but all he's got to do is keep winning, and he'll be up there eventually. He's doing great work, and that was, in terms of how to beat Masvidal, that's as impressive as he could have done it. He couldn't have done it any better. It was brilliant.
And what do you do when you have to face Usman now? Because I think a lot of these guys who are at the top of the welterweight division are quite, I wouldn't say one-dimensional, but they have their specialty. I mean, you got a striker like Wonder Boy, you've got a striker like Edwards even, or you've got someone like Covington who's predominantly a wrestler. What are they to do against Usman? Because yes, he can wrestle. Now we've seen him strike on the feet. He might not be the most technical, but he can still put you out. So the threat of the takedown is always going to be there. It's just a hard thing to deal with, isn't it?
And he's got really good defense. Like, I was looking at him, from Masvidal's point of view, and I was thinking the only way Masvidal's going to get him if he counters him when he's doing some of them sloppy punches. But it's easier said than done. When he's actually standing right in front of you, there's no way someone's going to, get off on him. So I'm interested to see Covington in there again with them, to see what improvements Covington can make, because he had a lot of success in there, and I'm also interested to see Leon Edwards in there. I know a lot of people they always point back to Usman's win over Leon Edwards, but there's nothing really you can take from that because it was so long ago. So they're both different fighters. I want to see that one as well. There's plenty he needs to do, in my opinion, Usman. I think there is holes there for people to exploit. It's just can they do it, and can Usman close them gaps? In terms of the areas of his game where there might be a bit of a gap, can he close them? Because he keeps getting better. He looks fantastic, and and that's the fun thing about welterweight now. There's lots going on. There's still a lot for him to do, and I can't wait to watch.
And one thing to note is the one other time that Masvidal has been knocked out, it was the exact same sequence, like identically. It was a lead hook that moved his hand out of the way, 2 came down and knocked him out. So I feel like it's more Trevor Whitman's game plan that got the victory here. I was actually would have thought he would have won, but to get a knockout in that fashion, clearly they saw it in their game planning for Masvidal and planned to execute the same thing. And I think Trevor Whitman is a lot of the reason why Usman's improving so much. I would say that who was his coach before? I can't remember his name. I'm blanking here. Doesn't matter. Since moving gyms, though, he's taken the information from his old gym and just added onto it to make himself more complete. Would you agree?
Yeah, I honestly don't mind seeing these guys hopping around gyms, because I think it can be like you get stuck in one gym and they might be good for you, but it's time to learn new things. And he's looked brilliant in his last couple of fights. He looked brilliant against Burns. He looked good against Masvidal too. So it's nice to see him picking up new things. And Trevor Whitman comes out of this night with a ton of credit, because his fighters perform fantastically. And I'd like to hear Whitman and Usman kind of sit down together and talk about exactly what the game plan was. Was he using the hands to try and set up the takedown, or did they actually think they could knock Masvidal out? So I think it'd be a bold strategy to go in and think we're going to knock Masvidal out, because as we spoke about, he hasn't been knocked out since over 10 years, I think, more than 10 years. So very, very impressive, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that game plan.
Yeah, and Henry Hoof was Usman's former coach, so I'll give him the credit there. But we'll jump on to the co-main event, which was another one of Trevor Whitman's fighters. Rose Namajunas really showed why she was a champion and showed her championship caliber fighting against Zhang there, getting the knockout in the first round. Did you see that one coming?
Yeah, I called it all day. Rose. People have short memories in MMA. Obviously, we've got Usman. People discrediting GSP when they talk about Usman, and it's like if you're saying Usman's better than GSP, you didn't watch GSP. And I think it's a similar story with Namajunas, where she gets all of a sudden Yang's got the belt. She's made one, very, very close title defense, and all of a sudden she's unbeatable. People have short memories, and as I said to you when we spoke, I thought Namajunas losing to Andrade was a bit fluky. Obviously you don't like taking things away from fighters, but it was a fluke situation, and it was a fluke situation. And she delivered. It was just perfect what she did. And Zhang's an aggressive fighter, and she kind of used that against her. Catches her with a head kick, puts it out. It was absolutely fantastic. And Rose Namajunas is one of the best female fighters you'll ever see, and she's only about 26, 27. So the sky's the limit for her.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Someone seems to disagree with you there, but anyway. I thought that Zhang would take this one. I thought her power was going to be too much. I thought she would be more aggressive on the feet. But really, Rose just landed a perfect head kick, right? There was really not much of a fight to break down here. It was pretty much feeling out process. Zhang thought that Rose was throwing to the legs. She put her legs out of the way, straight to the chin, put her out. It was textbook stuff for Namajunas. A really impressive win, and now she goes on. I think they're talking about doing a rematch. I don't know if I really want to see a rematch this quickly. But hey, there's not many other contenders right now that could challenge for the title other than Suarez, but she hasn't fought in so long that I can think of. What do you think?
Yeah, I really don't think there's a need for a rematch. As we said, he was not a dominant champion who deserves an immediate shot. She got kicked in the head and she got knocked out really quick. And I don't see why you'd want to run that back right away. Obviously, Joanna's there, but do you do a third Joanna fight? It's tough to sell that, I think. Mackenzie Dern is also there. I think she's on the cusp. And also Jessica Andrade, if she pops back down to 115 and, maybe gets a quick win, then maybe she could get a fight, because I think a third fight between them two is very sellable. So, it is an interesting what they do with it now. I wouldn't be surprised if they go with the rematch, but for me, I'd prefer to see Rose go on and do something else, because there really was no doubt left there, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, perfect finish for her. We'll move on to the first title fight of the night then, which included Jessica Andrade, and it was against Valentina Shevchenko, who is just a dominant force at women's flyweight, and there's no one getting through her, in my opinion.
Yeah, and she looked fantastic, and this is what I expected. I think over the last few fights, she hasn't looked as good as we're used to, because she's almost dropping down to her opponent's level. They really don't have anything for her, so she's just making it. She's just coasting through fights. But Andrade, I think a lot of some people fancied her to cause an upset, and I knew that would bring the best out of Shevchenko, and it was just dominance from start to finish. She was dominant in the wrestling exchanges, got in a crucifix. It really couldn't have been any more dominant from Valentina, and she just showed why she's the champ and why these girls can't even touch you. And even on post fight, she was like, these girls are looking for weaknesses. There isn't one, so stop looking. And she's a fantastic champion, and what you do with her now is the question.
I know that Dana White doesn't seem keen on that Nunes trilogy, but I feel there's nothing else for her. Like you said, there's not really a clear contender to face her right now, and even if there was, do they have a shot? No one's really showed that they are up to the skill level of her and would put on a pretty impressive challenge, So what do you do?
Yeah, and usually, like, I'd suggest, these girls move up and down weight divisions, but Namajunas is clearly a 115 fighter, so she goes up and fights Shevchenko. It's a tough night, and I think it's the same Shevchenko going up to Nunes, who also fights at 145. So I think she's just got to keep doing what she's doing, defending the belt, looking sensational, and someone will arise, a contender will pop up, and be the next challenger. It's just about waiting around now. But Valentina, absolutely fantastic. One of the performances of the night. I don't even think she got a bonus, but she deserved one. So shout out to her.
Yeah, there was just too much going on for her to get a bonus for that win. Even though that crucifix elbows was just crazy. Like, she was raining down on her. Didn't look good for Andrade, but hey, Shevchenko's a beast. Before that, we had probably the worst thing that could have happened on this card. Most shocking thing of the night for sure. Chris Weidman snaps his shin bone in the same fashion that Silva did on his leg against Uriah Hall. This was just brutal to watch. I know everyone that I was watching was disgusted. Just to happen to Weidman again, like, he was involved in the first one, now he's involved in this one. How's the bad luck on him? Like,
it's just mental, especially for Weidman to be that guy, because it is against Silva is one of the most, it's the most famous one, isn't it? And then for him to go and do that, it was nasty. So I don't know if it's what he could have done. Was it a leg kick issue? Did he throw it? Because he proper threw it so hard, didn't he? And he seems dangerous just throwing it there. But first kick of the fight as well. There was no competition. Actually, had Weidman in a bet. So, for that to happen to your bet, it absolutely stinks. So yeah, just good luck to him. Hopefully he can recover. I'd liked all the talk coming out of his camp of, how he can beat Izzy and how he's the guy. And I fancied him to beat Uriah Hall, and it was just terrible. And what does he do from here? Can't even come back, because it's probably a year or two out the cage, and he's in his late 30s. So good luck to the fella. He's a nice guy, and he's a brilliant fighter. So it's sad to see him go down like that. And obviously Hall didn't want to win like that either. It was just, it was just one of them things. You get them, don't you? But that just added to the drama of the night. Although we didn't want to see it, it was just another thing at this crazy night of fights we had.
Yeah, and obviously everyone at LowKick hopes he gets better soon and can get back into the cage ASAP. But look, I think an injury like that at that point in your career, it's pretty final in my opinion. I don't expect to see Weidman back. Not for a few years, like you said, for sure. But I did fancy him in this matchup. I thought he could get it done, but we just don't know. We don't know how good Hall looked from this. It doesn't really help with either side. You can't take this win for Hall and put him into a higher ranked fight. There's too many questions.
No, it's Hall gains nothing, and I'm sure he understands that he gains nothing from that. No one wins, everyone loses. Hall had to sit there and kind of just watch some guy's whole leg snap, and on the telly, on the TV, I feel like I'm used to it now. I was like, for a few minutes, I was like, whoa, and then it was on to the next fight. But I think for new MMA fans who aren't used to it, that'll be, you might not want to watch MMA again after seeing that. So. It was just a tough one, and obviously, as you said, hopefully Weidman gets better. Hopefully he can come back and get back in there. But it's gonna be an uphill struggle for him from here. But rooting for him.
And maybe this will stop people throwing leg kicks. Maybe this will be the end of it. Maybe people stop using them. It's not the case. It's not going to happen. But anyway, we'll move on to the first fight of the main card, which was Anthony Smith taking on the Australian Jimmy Crute. And a similar thing happened in this fight where Crute got kicked in that perennial nerve and he got that foot drop, couldn't recover from it. But I did think that Smith looked like he was dominating to that point. Crute's head movement wasn't there. Smith was landing with the jab non-stop. At the end of the round, when he did get injured, he shot a perfect takedown and held him down for the rest of the round. But aside from that, it was favouring Smith. What did you think of the stoppage and how the fight was going at that point?
Yeah, before we get into the stoppage, I just want to give Smith credit because obviously it was a weird ending, but I don't want to take credit away from him because he looked fantastic. He really did. And he was a considerable underdog going into this one, which was a surprise to me. He was a 2-1 dog. So for him to go out and dominate like he did, he absolutely jabbed his head off. It seemed like one-way traffic, and Crute is very capable of, turning the tide, I'm sure. But it all seemed to be going towards Smith. So, credit to him. And for me, that ending's even more weird than the leg break because we've seen leg breaks, they do happen, but people can't really explain what's happening there. He just gets kicked in the leg and his leg doesn't work anymore. It's not a snap, it's not an injury. I don't think he's going to require any type of rehab. It's just shuts off a nerve for it. So for me, it was weird to see. And Jimmy Crute, credit to him, he's a warrior. He tried to fight through and he's just limping all over the cage. It was just it was a weird one. And luckily it's not a proper injury. I don't think so. He'll be back. It was just, but they had to stop it. I know he was angry, but he can't fight like that. He would have got hurt.
Yeah, it wasn't going in his favour. And without one leg, it's like, how many times are you going to be able to land that takedown? Because that's really all he could do. It's not like he could sit there and strike with him. But yeah, kind of a sad ending to that fight, but Smith did deserve the win there. So we'll see what goes on for him next. Prelim time. I will just pick out one I want to speak about, then I'll throw it to you and you pick out as many as you want. The one I wanted to mention was the Robertson versus Allen fight, just because I love the leg locks, and that 50-50 position is so dangerous when you're throwing your legs in there. Either guy can get it, and obviously Allen won.
Yeah, and for me, Robinson made a huge mistake in that sequence because he's a guy who's been submitted in every loss of his career, I think, and Allen is a guy who submits people. He's got a submission win over Kevin Holland, so he's a good submission grappler. So to start going in 50-50 positions with someone like that, if it's to me, I was like, I didn't understand why he was doing that. But again, I had Allen on my bet, so I was kind of happy that Robertson did. But Allen looked fantastic. He looked great, and great win, and beautiful ankle lock. I enjoy that type of stuff. They are quite rare, and we don't see them a lot. So. Brilliant to see that.
For sure. I'll throw it to you then. Any other ones you want to speak about?
The main prelim was Randy Brown against Alex Oliveira. I thought we'd get a few rounds out of this. I thought Alex Oliveira would make it more of a fight, but Randy Brown has kind of shown that he's the best of the rest outside the ranked guys. I feel like he is the guy. He's the guy. He only loses when he steps up. He's only 30 years old. He's huge for the division. And he looked fantastic. And he got a rear naked choke with just one arm, which is just it's unheard of, really. So, brilliant fight from him. Dwight Grant was quite lucky, I think, in the fight before that to get the decision win. I thought he did lose that, but it was a fun fight nonetheless. And then who else did we have? And then I want to shout out Jeff Molina on the undercard because that was the fight of the night and it was brilliant. I've just learned this guy's name and I forgot it already. Archie Long, I think Archie Long. Yeah, Archie Long. And they both look fantastic, but Jeff Molina, as the fight progressed, he was boxing his head off, and it's such an impressive debut. 23 years old. He looked fantastic in the Contender Series, and he comes in and he has a debut like that. And on the broadcast, they were hyping up the other guy, the whole way through that fight. Archie Long was getting hyped up, and then Molina just picked them off over the fight and looked fantastic. And then at the end, they almost had that Lamas Holloway throwdown where they just both started winging. So brilliant fight, and delighted to see them two go away with 50k, and very excited to see Jeff Molina in the future. As I said, 23 years old, and he looks like that in his debut. Fantastic stuff.
Absolutely, and that'll pretty much wrap up the UFC 261 there. Other fights we had over the weekend, we had PFL's return, start of their 2021 season. We had Clay Collard versus Anthony Pettis in the main event. We both picked Pettis going into this one, but we were wrong. What do you think of that fight?
Yeah, and at this point in his career, Anthony Pettis, with all due respect, is quite beatable. But he showed a lot. Despite the loss, he showed a lot of toughness. And there's been moments where he does curl up and he looks like he's done. And I think Clay Collard might be quite disappointed he wasn't able to finish him. But Pettis come back and looked good in the third round. Landed some of his flashy stuff. But Clay Collard, very, very much deserved that win. He looked fantastic, very heavy-handed, and he goes on. He gets them 3 points on the board, but I think he'll be disappointed not to actually get that finish. Would have been, a huge, bow on his reel. So great fight. Pettis will come again. I think he looked good. He still got it at a certain level. It's just, Collard just had a bit much for him that night.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Collard because I thought he would just be really only a boxing threat, but he had lots of kicks in his arsenal. He was mixing it up. His pressure was too much for Pettis. In that second round, he almost put Pettis away, but obviously Pettis was tough enough to survive then. Imagine if in that third round when Pettis landed the high kick in the knee, he finished the fight. What a story that would have been. Losing the first 2.5 rounds, coming back and winning with that. But yeah, Collard deserved that win, so for him to get it was just the perfect thing,
Yeah, Collard's biggest win in his career. He goes on now, and there's $1 million at play. So I think it's a league table they're doing, aren't they? So Pettis is still in there. He's just got to go back to the drawing board and try and get some wins under his belt in PFL. But he's still got it. He's still got something there. He's still got the flashy moments. It's just they're coming a bit less often than they used to.
Yeah, that's true. Throw it to you then. Any other fights, or we'll go to news?
Yeah, I just want to speak about the Bubba Jenkins Lance Palmer fight. There was a bit of animosity coming in. I think the old wrestling rivals from high school or college, and I think Bubba Jenkins had the advantage in them, and he managed to upset it as well because Lance Palmer was the man coming into this. He was on a big streak, and he got a dominant decision defeat. So shout out Bubba Jenkins, and then also our guy from the UK, probably a standout performance of the night. That was actually the only KO, the only finisher of the night, actually, for PFL. Brendan Loughnane knocked out Shayman Moraes inside one round. He looked fantastic. And, credit to the guy because he's been out for ages. He's been overlooked by the UFC. And a part of his problem was that he didn't knock someone out in Contender Series. And then he goes out there and absolutely style who's just come off the UFC. So shout out to him. As I said last time, I think he can go on and win this whole featherweight tournament. 6 points on the board after that one. So congrats, and can't wait to watch his next one. But yeah, that's it from PFL, and we'll look forward to the next card. We'll speak about that in a few days' time.
Yep, for sure. I think the biggest news that we've got to grab is Jake Paul and DC having a little back and forth at the fights. Did you see what was said? Did you see the clip of what happened, and what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed DC even entertained it, really. It's like, he's getting ready for WWE, DC, isn't he? And he's got no interest in fighting Jake Paul. So I don't know why he'd go away from his commentary desk, walk all the way over to him. And actually, he didn't really do anything, did he? So, it's a weird set. I'm kind of on Jake Paul's this one. It's not like he actually did anything too bad to DC, I don't think. I think DC was talking about him and Jake Paul responded. So, weird from DC. If he doesn't plan on fighting him, I don't know why he's doing that. But it adds to the night, doesn't it? Again, Jake Paul, he had the whole crowd shouting his name. He's living in every MMA fan's head rent free, and he's doing something right. As Dana White keeps saying, he's doing something right. It's not what we want to see. So I would have preferred to see DC to kind of stay away from that.
And did you see Jake Paul's post on Twitter or Instagram earlier today about Fighter Page? Is that?
Yeah, this is what I mean. I think he's turning it around. There's getting at MMA fans now, like, it doesn't feel good. We're actually agreeing with what Jake Paul's saying. So he's got his point. He knows what he's doing. He keeps. I don't know why. I get Dana White's annoyance because he keeps calling out UFC fighters that are under contract with him, and go and fight a boxer. Like, honestly, like, if you want to be a boxer, go and fight boxers. And I understand Dana White's side of things, but then it is easy to take jabs at Dana White because he does have these glaring holes where he is underpaying his fighters. He is doing A, B, and C wrong, and it's easy for Jake Paul to just point at that. So I think it's, one, maybe even 2-0 to Jake Paul at the minute against MMA. So hopefully we can get it back next time one of our guys goes over to fight him.
Yeah, hopefully. I think he's a master marketer, if not anything else. He's a great marketer. And actually, it's enjoyable to see what he's doing just because he is triggering a lot of people and he's getting results for himself. So props to him, power to him. But yeah, other news, do you have anything or should I grab something else?
So one I've just wrote is a surprising one. It's basically Conor McGregor and Colby Covington in the aftermath of 261. I've both kind of suggested that Usman is a drug cheat, and it just it seems like after the biggest win of his career, a bit of salt from these two guys. Obviously a guy who I don't think he's ever popped or done anything wrong, had any type of violation. But Conor and Colby are in there, throw mud at him.
Yeah, I mean, Colby's been doing that since their fight, so it's not surprising for him. But from Conor, it's a bit weird, especially Conor's been calling him out since his win. He was saying he's going to go up to 170 next. I don't like that idea. I think Conor should stay in his lane at 155, or even he could probably make 145 and do a better job there than at 170. He's too undersized against these guys, especially someone like Usman, who's so wrestling heavy in their approach most of the time. Like, it's not going to be a good time for him to go up there and fight him, so I don't know why he's saying this stuff. But hey, he's in the news. That's where he needs to be. The same with the Jake Paul thing. You get in the news, you get attention. That's what you want.
Yeah, and I don't know why Conor would even mention that, because he's got so much work to do at 155. He's coming off a loss. He'll probably be an underdog again going into this next fight, and then he's got to win the belt after that. So and in between, as soon as you get to win, all of these offers for boxing and Pacquiao fights back on the table and things like that. So I think even if he beats Poirier, we're not going to see him win a UFC belt. Maybe never again. So just for me, it was interesting to see them two throwing mud at this time. Usman looks so great, and it's not weird because they are them type of guys, but it's a bit sad to see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Last thing I have is Nick Diaz was at the event. Nick Diaz apparently is waiting in the back for Dana White because he was going to have a conversation about coming back. According to Dana, he wants to come back. And when asked if Khamzat Chimaev would be a possible opponent, Dana White said he wouldn't rule it out. What do you think about all that?
I hate that fight. I just think that's a crazy fight to make. I don't know how long Nick Diaz has been out the cage, but even the last time he was in the cage, he didn't look great either. So I want to see Nick Diaz. I want to see him back because he looks in fantastic shape. As we said last time, he looks absolutely shredded. Congrats to the guy. He's got back in shape. But I want to see him in there with the Carlos Condits, the Robbie Lawlers, the Dan Hardys, the people like that. So there's no way on earth they should be matching him against Chimaev. And if they want to make Chimaev this star, I don't think beating old Nick Diaz is the way to do it. So I hope Chimaev comes back and has a real fight against Neil Magny or Jeff Neal or whoever, someone of that level.
Mm-hmm. And if you do want to give Diaz like a fight that'll put him in the mix, I really think the Masvidal fight works. Like, give him Jorge Masvidal. Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal is a much more, I think, sellable fight and a much more reasonable fight than giving him like a prospect like Chimaev.
Yeah, that makes sense because Nick Diaz obviously is going to demand a lot of money to come back. And then in terms of placements on a card, where does Nick Diaz against Carlos Condit 2 go? Where does Nick Diaz against Robbie Lawler go on the card? It's probably one of the earlier fights, isn't it? It can't be a co-main event or anything like that. Whereas I think Nick Diaz against Jorge Masvidal is co-main event, worthy on a big card. So yeah. It is all about matching them, and I think that is a direction they might be looking in as well.
Yeah, we'll see what comes to that. Is there anything else you've got?
Just Chris Weidman obviously has had his surgery and it was a success, and he's looking a bit happier. So that's great to see. Hopefully we'll see him back. Obviously, as we said earlier, it looks like a tough road for him now, but just good to see him back on the road to recovery at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully everything goes well and he can get back in there within a year or two, ideally. How long it takes Silver? It took him a couple of years, right, before he made his return?
A couple of years, but then he popped for steroids or something. So maybe longer if you're not using steroids. I'm not sure how it works, but yeah, it's a tough road back for Weidman, especially his age, and he might just sack it in. I'm sure his wife's by his bed saying, "We've got the money, we've got a lovely life, and you've won the belt. What more do you need to achieve?" At this point, he might just he might just take his recovery slow and not really want to get back in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But that pretty much wraps it up there. So thanks for watching, guys. And like I mentioned before, we'll be back on Wednesday with a preview for the UFC and the PFL coming this weekend. So we'll speak to you then. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.